Hello there, Wacky What If here. I'm here with part 7 of What If Issei Was Betrayed and Got Carnage. So, Issei has just reawoken the same night that he had Konica to kill Akeno. And he's laughing because a certain plan that he's kept hidden from the eye is going perfectly accordingly. He's laughing in the middle of the night. He's getting up out of his bed. It's around midnight now. He's walking down the stairs. He's walking out of the house. And he's walking to the woods behind Kohai. And he notices that the two people that he wanted to see are there. These two unknown figures kneel down before him in the symbiote suits that they both wear. And Issei is just laughing to himself because thanks to a certain trick, he has two more pawns. Two more agents of chaos, as Carnage would call them. And he's laughing to himself at them and telling them both to keep an eye on Konica and Rias. If Konica shows any insubordination, then slaughter her. If the symbiote can't control her. Or, if Rias starts to catch on, make sure you kill her in the most brutal fashion. He says this to both of these unknown figures. One of them is sporting a completely pitch black and red symbiote. The other one's sporting a completely purple and black symbiote. And Issei just dismisses both of them and they disappear. And he goes home and lays on his bed. The next day, Issei goes out of his house while making his food and putting it into his actual book bag. He goes to Kohai. As soon as she steps on the property, everyone that was all like cheerful, all wondering what we're gonna do for today, they look at him. They look at him and they start shuddering. They start moving away. And some of them start screaming because they saw his brutality, and he's only gotten worse over the days, the weeks. Hell, in one fight he ended up biting some kid's arm, almost the entire flesh off the arm. And they didn't want to be that person. So they all moved out of the way for him. And Issei was walking through like, I'm the king. I own this. And soon, everyone will be like me. I'll make it to where I'm not the only insane one. I'm not the only one that craves carnage, wants destruction, blood, death, and chaos all over the world, the streets, the underworld, the heavens themselves. No, I will make an army. And he's thinking this in his mind while Carnage is applauding him and telling him that's such a noble cause, while laughing to himself. And Issei joins in the laughter. The only thing is, Issei's laughing out loud while walking, and his face is kind of twitching. And everyone sees this as a bad sign, so they're starting to run away from him now. And Issei's laughing at them, while also laughing about his idea, his goal. No, it's not a goal for him. It's something he will turn into reality. He will make it happen. And Issei knows this as he walks into Kohai, walks up the stairs. Everyone could hear his footsteps. They know those footsteps out of pure fear of being beaten to a pulp, out of other things happening, like those disappearances with some people that annoyed Issei. They didn't want to disappear. So they all were scared. Everyone in Issei's classroom, even Konica, were shivering. The teacher literally shit himself in the classroom. And some of them that had asthma were having asthma attacks or panic attacks. And they almost died on the spot. But other people in the class helped them through it by calming them down, even though they were scared shitless as well. And as soon as Issei is getting closer and closer, everyone's starting to sweat bullets, even people from other classes, because they're wondering if he's going to jump into their class or something. The man's crazy. And Issei knocks on his classroom door and says, "Hey, Teach, could you open the door for me?" And the teacher is sweating and slowly walks towards the door with pure fear on his face. He opens the door and he receives a punch in the gut, a kick in the balls, and a kick in the knee, making him go down on his knees. And Issei just picks him up by the throat and slams him against the ground and starts grabbing the textbook that the teacher was about to read to the class and starts smashing his face in with it over and over and laughing insanely while doing so, while everyone else is staring at him, wondering how he can get away with this. No. Why is he getting away with this? Little do they know that the principal himself is terrified of what Issei will do, and the principal himself knows what Issei is and does not want to die, because Issei is threatening his family, his life, his finances, the school itself, everything he cherishes. So the principal has to turn a blind eye to this. While Issei is finished beating him, he tells a certain student with blue hair to go ahead and bring him to the infirmary. And once he gets close enough to Issei just bulks up to him, just puts his face close to his face, and says, "Hurry up, I'll give you till 10 seconds before you turn to the teacher here, and I beat you so hard that all of your bones will just be begging and begging just to be broken. Because I will show you so much pain, you'll wish that all your bones were broken. You'll wish that your pain sensors killed themselves. And you'll wish that you didn't exist." And he says this with a sly, insane, maniacal smile and a dead serious voice that made everyone in the classroom shake. Their bones instinctively shaked. Their teeth chattered. And the blue-haired boy grabbed the teacher very quickly because Issei was counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and by the time it hit 6, he ran out of the room with the teacher, nearly tripping, and Issei was laughing, and he said, "Hi there, class. Mind if I teach you something?" And he grabs some chalk. He starts writing on the chalkboard, and he writes, "Carnage." And Issei says, "I'm your new substitute, Mr. Carnage. I'll teach you how to get fucked up." And he shows a portrait of him violently slaughtering the entire classroom. He starts drawing a portrait, and they're all mesmerized by it. They can't move their heads in fear, because one person decided to move their head away, and Issei appeared right in front of them and slammed their head against the desk for 10 straight minutes, and started kicking their face in, until their face started to go inside their head. And they don't want to be that person. Issei was violently showing how he'll brutally murder his class. Not injure, murder them. And this was terrifying to them. And Issei even said, "I'm going to show you some demonstrations." And he grabbed the 2 people in the front row that were sitting in the front row. He lifted them up. He started bashing them together, bashing them against the walls, making it to where their blood would spew out, and he started painting the walls with their blood. And he started painting his actual depiction of what he'll do with their blood, and smashing their head against the chalkboard consistently, and then kicking him in the face, in the spleen, the spine, and he threw them to the ground and started stepping on their spines with all the pressure and weight he can. And everyone heard a cracking, a breaking, a creaking sensation in their very bones. And the boys were yelling out, screaming, begging for mercy. But Issei didn't have any of that. And he said, I'm fresh out of mercy, but I'm full of carnage. And he steps on them, jumps on their backs, even harder, breaks their spines, and they're bleeding out from the mouth, just coughing out blood. And Issei just picks them up and throws them out the window, and they fall with a crack and a snap. And everyone looks out the window and see that they're both dead. And Issei says, did you think I was playing? Oh, also, the cameras don't work. And I would normally say don't tell anyone, but I have a new plan. And all of a sudden, these symbiote-like things, these odd creatures to everyone else, start coming out of Issei's hands, and they start rushing towards all of them. And they feel their bones being reorganized, being munched on by these liquid-like creatures going into their skin, into their bloodstream, devouring their blood, devouring their flesh, breaking their bones, reorganizing their bones, their flesh, ripping their mind to pieces. And they're all screaming in agony, but no one can hear because Issei put a sound barrier. And he put an illusion around those two students that were thrown outside, so no one will even see them. And Issei is just saying, my army will be complete. And he's laughing to himself so loud that it almost shakes his sound barrier and snaps it. And he's just wondering, what should my next step be, while he leaves the classroom after the bell rings, leaving all the other people in a transformation-like state. They're turning into symbiotes. They're not turning into symbiote users. They're turning into symbiotes themselves. Because Issei has noticed that certain people aren't compatible with symbiotes. Because he did trial and error in his basement in his house while abducting some people. Flashback. There's this one 10-year-old kid inside of Issei's basement. And Issei has been torturing the kid and putting his symbiote inside the kid. But notice that the symbiote rejects the kid. It's breaking his bones, making him scream out in pain, cough up blood, almost cough up his insides. And it's also devouring the insides of the kid, while simultaneously stimulating the actual pain sensor, making this feel 1,000 times worse than it is. Issei was smiling and laughing, but also wondering why it isn't working. And once everything was done after a few hours of that transformation, the symbiote itself appeared in just its normal state of appearing off of the user. But it could morph into a full-grown suit with a physical body that it could reforge at will. And Issei has noticed something. It reforms the user of the skin that it's eating, the actual host it's devouring, if it doesn't fit the host. And Issei is applauding this. It's thinking, this is very useful. End of flashback. Issei is now going to lunch. He is currently thinking of where else to expand his army. And once he enters the lunchroom, he ends up seeing all the kids there, all the lunch ladies. And Issei sees all the lunch ladies and gives them a really sly, maniacal smirk. And they all hide behind the cafeteria. They hide behind their stations in fear. Some of them even already pissed themselves from Issei just looking in their directions. And Issei said, alright, spell, lockdown, soundproof, world. And all of a sudden, the whole world didn't have a single sound in it. People looked at him, and they were trying to say something because he screamed that out loud. And to their horror, Issei turned into this creature, this maniacal, demonic being that they think of. And he starts rushing everyone, starts munching into their sides, starts ripping out their organs, starts removing their hearts. He's doing this to 5 people at a time, and just going through, smashing people's heads open, and letting symbiotes take over the dead bodies and eat the corpse. Because he's noticed that they could be dead or alive with these symbiotes. Because these symbiotes have Drake's power. That's the thing that fuels them. They don't need a living body. They just need a dead one, or a living one. But after the living body gets invaded by these specific symbiotes, which he calls the undead symbiote, or the necro symbiote, then they can reform themselves into what he notes as the Carnage soldiers, or the soldiers of chaos. And he's smashing everyone, removing their guts out, strangling other students with the guts of others, hanging them by nooses outside the window with illusion magic, making sure they're not seen, looking into their eyes of despair before ripping their heads off, and spreading all the symbiotes out of his body and all over everyone else, making the process painful for the ones that are alive. And for the dead ones, they were luckier since they had a not quick death, but still painful death. But no, the people that are being transformed, if they're not compatible, which no one was, then their death is going to be excruciatingly painful. It's going to take hours. And Carnage, Issei, just walks out of the cafeteria, laughing to himself, saying, "I've got the biggest move." And as soon as all the symbiotes take into their hosts, and they start forming into their symbiotic suit form, while reforming the flesh around the suit to host them, their dead humans, he ends up giving them the order from his mind to go all the way to his house and be in the basement, all packed together. Because we're gonna have a meeting to ruin. And he laughs devilishly to himself. And, well, he walks home, and Konika, who has just missed school because she's trying to think of what she did before, why would she do such a thing? What is this creature inside me? How do I gain control of it? Can I control the creature? She's thinking this while Issei's going home. Koniko is talking to Rias, telling her that she's a monster, and Rias is comforting her. And Koniko tells her what happened. How that she's a monster, and before she can even say the word, all of a sudden, in her mind, the symbiote says, "If you say it, I'll rip her head off, and I'll take over and make you kill everything in the Rias estate. In the meeting, I'll make it to where you blow up and explode all over everyone, and that my symbiote form will go into every single one of them and torture them for all eternity." And Koniko says, "No, never mind." She says this slowly outside to Rias. And Rias says, "It was just a dream," and she hugs into Koniko, while Koniko has the pure expression of shock and fear, and she's trembling. Cut back to Issei. Issei has waited until it was around 9 p.m. and he goes back to the school. And he notices that there's lights in the school, and he uses his super hearing, and he hears that Sir Zex, Azazel, Morpheus, the Leviathan, and many others are inside that room, all talking about a certain meeting, and Issei is smirking to himself, thinking this is going to be very, very entertaining. And he ends up calling out two people, saying, I want you guys to give them my warmest invitations. And they're heading towards the school, and all of a sudden, Wacky Anime What If decides to stop it on the cliffhanger. I'm so sorry, but I've got to. I hope you guys like part 7. And please show some enjoyment in it by leaving comments or leaving even as good things as possible or even normal criticism, because I just want to know like how you guys feel about this. I hope you guys